Yeah. So Art of Resilience by, what's his name? Ross
Edgley.
And this is a book about resilience. No, I totally read it. I'll give you guys. I'll give you guys.
Okay.
I'll give you guys my
Totally didn't phone this one in.
my points after you guys do yours. But ultimately, the big story behind the book, he swims a very long distance around some island. I think it was Australia, and
Oh my goodness.
he works in this idea of stoicism and a lot of sports science. Like we cover a lot of the studies that he actually does in the book, which I think is cool. And he works it into, very practical, useful tips and makes it entertaining in the process. So it was a really good book. I'll go over my favorite parts and my least favorite parts. But I was just trying to give a intro there. What do you guys think of this book?
So the island that he swims around is the UK, is Great Britain. That's the island. It's the
Not
other side
Australia.
of
Oh,
the
that's
world.
not near as impressive as I originally thought.
You sound like the colonel in the beginning. Oh, that's a bit shit, isn't it?
Great
yeah,
Britain, that's it? No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Pretty
And this
impressive.
only happened like 3 years ago, so it was pretty recent and pretty crazy. So the one that I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to make sure I jumped in it before anybody else took it, is it's been burned in my mind since it happened on the book, and then since I finished it, which was about 3 weeks ago. And I almost said it last week when we were talking about the self-compassion and such like that. And my favorite part of this book is when he talks about controlling the controllables. I think that was fantastic and a great tip and outlook to have with fitness, with goals, with everything. And it boils down to, you need to focus on what is actually in your hands, what you can do and what you can't, and not worrying about what you can't do. Things are going to happen. Everybody runs into issues that just is out of their hands. Gym shut down, stuff like that. But you need to control your own controllables and to overcome certain situations. So that part was really, really cool. I think if just looking back to just personally me, that this past year and a half, or since we've been recording the podcast, I've had bruised ribs. I've had a partially torn hamstring, and I was a homeless nomad living on a couch for like 4 months. But during the whole time, I still averaged 4 to 5 training sessions a week. It's just one of those where, just because you have to pivot away from certain things, that just opens you up to do some other stuff for training wise. And that can go with a lot of things that happen in life to, take what you can actually control and don't fret and worry about what you can't control. Because I think that could just put you down to a rabbit hole and it's hard to climb out once you're down there. So control the controllables was one of the biggest things that I really liked about it and took away. I'll just do one at a time, but Kyle, what's one of yours?
Oh, one of mine? Okay, cool.
I don't know. You can just go.
I'll just go. Yeah, actually what you're talking about is something that I took away as well. A couple weeks ago, I think, I don't remember which one it was, but I brought up that Dune quote that I've saved from, the
Fear is the mind killer.
Fear is the mind killer.
Oh my God, that's the one thing he read.
And
it's like on the third page.
It's the only part of Dune that Jared read. But the last line of that whole quote is, where the fear has gone, there will be nothing, only I will remain. And that's kind of what he's talking about with like stoicism is. And that's what Joe was just talking about, of controlling the controllables, focusing on what you have at hand that you can influence. That's exactly what stoicism is all about. It's focusing on what you can control and making sure that you're focusing only on the task. There's other things that are going to try to distract you, and just focus only on the task. So I would echo that and agree with that. So are we only doing one?
No,
moving around? Or
that's not how I prepped for this. So no.
Okay, perfect.
Keep going.
Because I didn't want to do it that way. All right, perfect. This was not my favorite book ever, but it might be my second favorite book ever. It was
Lord of the Rings.
I really
Wait, what's your first book?
I'm not going there right now, because I can't. I would have to think about what my favorite book ever is.
Oh, so you don't actually know.
Okay. Anyway,
cool.
That's not
I know what
I
number
prepped
2 is,
for
but I
here.
don't know what number 1 is.
It's not what I prepped for here.
I thought you were going to put it under like the Bible. So I was going to be super
It's definitely
impressed.
under the Bible. Okay. The Bible is number one. The Bible is number one. Okay. But I'm going to have to rethink this whole thing because this is not
I don't know if
second
this
to the
would be
Bible.
number 2 if Bible
This is not
number
second
1.
to the Bible. Okay. Anyway, man. All right. It's not how I imagined this going. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think that I have my new life motto from this book.
Oh,
and
whoa.
it's fast can be fragile, but slow can be strong.
There you go.
So it's like, I'm just thinking like slow and strong. That's my jam. I'm cool with that. Let's do it. But he talks about how strength builds the foundation for everything. It's the base for everything. And it reduces being strong and strength training. It builds you up to a point where you're more resistant to disease and infection. It reduces your injury susceptibility. I mean, you think about how far this guy swam. It was over 1,700 miles, and he didn't get injured. You know what I mean? And he's not just swimming like in a pool or like he's swimming in open ocean and like some of the most treacherous waters on the planet. Like there's portions of this swim that he did where like boats don't even go there at certain times a year because like even a boat can't make it through. But like he was swimming through. Obviously, he wasn't swimming during that time where it was really super dangerous. But anyway, swimming for that distance, even though swimming is a low impact activity, like swimming in open ocean for 1,700 miles for over 150 days straight, like dude should have broken at some point and he didn't. And it's because, and he makes the point, he attributes that to having been involved in strength training for a long time. And so just kind of reinforces the point that strength training builds the base for everything else, for all of your athletic endeavors, any kind of exercise that you're trying to do, you need to be doing strength training. And that's why all of our tracks at Garage Gym Athlete incorporate strength training. No matter which track you're on, you're going to be doing some strength training because it's that important. So I thought that was really cool. Also, something that the book talks about a lot that we don't talk about much on the podcast is how your mindset affects everything that you do. Obviously, sarcasm there.
Sarcastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, sarcasm there. We talk about mindset all the time. I mean, Ashley and I are both wearing Killing Comfort shirts today. You know, that's what Killing Comfort's all about. But as I'm listening to this book, like my mind can wrap around like the physical side of what this guy did, right? Like getting into the sports science. I still think it's an amazing feat. I think it's incredible that he was able to do it physically, but my mind can wrap around like all the sports science behind it, you know, the strength training to build that foundation of, you know, the recovery that he engaged in, the food that he had to take in, you know, the caloric intake he had in order to recover, all that. My mind can wrap around that. It's still incredible that he did it, but my mind can wrap around it. My mind cannot wrap around the mindset that this dude had to swim in the open ocean for 12 hours a day, every single day for 157 days straight. Like my mind can't go there. I can't fathom having that kind of fortitude, that kind of dedication to something just from a mental standpoint. And it just reinforces what we talk about all the time, that your body really is only limited by what your mindset allows you to do. Your mind is what holds you back. It allows you to either achieve your potential or not achieve your potential. I mean, this guy swam over 1,700 miles. His body was physically capable of doing it. He never got injured. He never got sick. You know, his body was physically capable of doing it. But the reason he was able to do it was not just because of his physical capability. It was because of his mental fortitude. To me, that's the most incredible part and unbelievable part of this whole story and this whole thing, and really just the human experience. Like the human body is capable of things that we haven't even reached its full potential yet, but we can only achieve what our minds will allow us to achieve. And so to me, that was the biggest takeaway from the book, was being mentally resilient and allowing that to help you reach your full potential physically.
Yeah, and the dedication he had, like not just swimming for the 12 hours a day, but he never went ashore if they were
Right.
going places. And his reasoning was like, you know, I can't put any more stress on my body than I am. And like having that dedication, I'm going to basically be in open water the entire time
Right.
that I'm doing this. Like that, I mean, that was crazy. I loved this book because Kyle kind of touched on it, but I hate saying self-help because it makes it put it like in a negative thing, but most like self-help or I don't know how to say. Basically, sometimes it can be a little dry. He is hilarious. Like if you can listen to the audiobook is what I'll say. Like cuz
He narrates.
yes, and he tells his story and it's like the good, the bad, and the ugly is what I wrote. And he tells you about, all the things that sucked, but then all the thing like how he took what sucked and then turned it again. He flipped it on its head and was like,
Right.
okay, I'm gonna make this a positive. Like that again, this dude killed the ultimate comfort. But yeah, he makes you laugh. One of the funniest things I think I was actually like eating, I almost spit some food out, was he talks to a specialist and the guy's like, oh, you have a big head, like you swimming around the UK is going to be terrible for you because of the size of your noggin. Like that's literally what this person told him. And then he was like, oh wait, but then you've got childbearing hips and thick thighs. And all I kept thinking was, man, I'd be a fantastic swimmer then, because he said you'd be super buoyant because of that. But yeah, he talks about all sorts of stuff. But so the book breaks down in 11 lessons essentially. And so my two favorite lessons are 5 and 8. And 5 talks about make your body an instrument and not an ornament, I think is what this one's titled. And it's he uses a method, is it the SAID method? I forget what it stands for. Yeah.
Specific adaptation to impose demands.
Perfect. And he just basically talks about putting your body under stress. And the more times you're putting your body under that stress, you will not get used to it, but basically like your body is going to adapt and then get better at it. And so I really liked that. And then the last one was 8. And the reason I liked 8, it's again, we're talking about strength here, and it's strength improves stamina and stamina improves strength. So like the training went hand in hand with each other, which was super cool. But and then I have to bring up the jellyfishes to the face. Oh my gosh. Like this dude gets stung in the face and like just what did he say? He got 25 jellyfish stings in the face and just kept
in one
swimming.
night.
Yeah.
Like it
in
was
one night,
nothing.
yeah.
And he couldn't even talk because he was so like
His eyes were swollen shut.
yes. Anyways, this book, go read it, go listen to it. It's great. It's very entertaining, and you'll have a few takeaways as well.
I just re-listened to that same chapter, and I laughed again out loud because the captain wanted to give him a gimp mask. Like how ridiculous that is. And then he was narrating, saying that like they were disappointed at the lack of sex shops in northern Scotland or something. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So things like that happen in the book a lot.
Yeah. And Kenyan men, if you're a Kenyan man, dude, I won't bring it up, but you just read the book and you'll know what I'm talking about. Kudos. All right, Jared.
My turn. Well, I guess I have to bring some negative to the book, or else people are going to think Ross paid us to do this review with how glowing the three of you have painted the picture. So I will start with a negative. That way I can end with positive. And my only negative was I do think that he had some pretty gross misinterpretations of studies. Not like he read it and like got it wrong on accident. It sounds like he was trying to use some of them to his advantage, but probably knowingly misinterpreted some of those, specifically the J-shaped curve and the immune system. He got concurrent training pretty wrong. I talked to you guys about that. And there were a few others. Us just having covered these studies, I didn't like go look at them after the fact, already having dove into some of these. It's not that the studies are bad. It's just, I think he tried to, and you have to know that this is true. He did not come up with this like ridiculous plan and then go execute it. Some of this had to happen after the fact, right? I'm sure he read a bunch of studies. He swam around Great Britain, and then he was like, okay, I need to fit in some other stuff to make this make the story a little bit better. And I do think that some of them just didn't work. So that was the only part I did not like, was some of the misinterpretations of the studies. But other than that, that was only a handful of them of the like 100 studies that he probably mentioned in this. Other than that, it was good. So the big picture, why I like the book, because I've only ever seen one other author do it, and it was Alex Hutchinson, is making let's just say a fitness related book with science in it, entertaining. That is a very hard thing to do. I'd like to challenge myself to be able to do that one day. But that is, I just think is very difficult. But he had an amazing story about what he did, what he accomplished, and then he worked science into it. So entertaining and educational is a very hard thing to pull off, and he did it great. I do think that there is a ton of overlap. I'm talking about direct overlap with this book and Alex Hutchinson's book Endure, from the studies, from the people they talk about. So if you want, I mean, I put Alex Hutchinson's book quite above this book. So if you do like these types of books, I would go Alex Hutchinson, read Endure first, and after Endure, I would read this one if you guys like want a back to back, because I think Alex is also, it's all endurance, right? And so he's going to go a lot deeper on the things that this guy mentions, and that's why I say hit it there first, because he only mentions some of these like models of fatigue and endurance and stuff. He just barely touches on them, and Alex goes really deep on them and why they matter and how to utilize them. But then Ross brings in a lot more of the science and strength training stuff and resilience and the mindset piece that I don't think Alex does as much. So I think it's a great combo to listen back to back. I love Stoicism in general. If you do like Stoicism, read what's his name? The Stoicism dude. He lives down
Ryan
in Austin.
Holiday.
Yeah, Ryan Holiday. Read anything by Ryan Holiday. All of his stuff is Stoicism. You could get the daily meditations one's another great one. If you enjoy his sports science Stoicism, whatever the hell he called it, you like the idea of Stoicism and being resilient, definitely check out almost anything Ryan Holiday has written, and you'll get a lot of good stuff from that. My favorite big takeaway, Ashley kind of mentioned it, was his reframing. I didn't write down what the lesson was or for which chapter, but it was towards the end when he does talk about reframing all of these things. Like they didn't allow any negative like conversation or talk while he was out on the water, right? If he got stung by a jellyfish, he wasn't allowed to say he got stung. He got hugged by a jellyfish, those types of things. And I think that those things go a long way in any kind of situation that you're in, no matter what it is. So I think if you could learn to do that in your daily life, always having a positive reframe of, Thomas Edison was like, I found like 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb, right? He didn't call them failures necessarily. I think reframing is the way that you have to look at it. So that was my biggest takeaway. I think was awesome overall. Like I said, incredibly impressive. I'm impressed by the dude. What he did is impressive, but I'm talking more about the actual writing of the book. I'm really impressed because of the combination of being able to do science and an entertaining story at the same time. I've only ever seen it done one other time, and that was Alex Hutchinson. So I'm very impressed with the book, and 2 thumbs up. Think that you should definitely read it.
Yeah, I think that's something that I enjoyed about it too, is like if he had just written the book about the story about the swim, like that would have been an entertaining book, and he could have just done it that way of just really just telling the story and just like diving into the whole experience. But then he brought the sports science into it as well, and kind of, as you said, he didn't go super deep, like other authors have. But at the same time, that I don't think that was the entire point of the book. The book was meant to tell the story of the swim, but also to bring in the science behind it as well. So mixing the two. Otherwise, it would have been like,
and
would have been like 2 or 3 times larger if he had tried to dive deep into everything.
Which reminds me, asterisk on a lot of the things that he does mention from training protocols. I wouldn't try almost any of them. Just so if anybody's thinking about it, like even the basic strength methods he's talking about, everything he selected and did was incredibly hardcore, and is not something most athletes should do. He does list some of these things in like here's how to do it, which I think is a dangerous game. Even if you preface it with, you probably shouldn't do this, but here's exactly how to do it. So anyway, yeah, I wouldn't follow most of his training protocols. They're very hard. They're not going to be magical for you. And he had a lot of training experience going into it. So know that if you're trying to take practical, like what should I do with my training applications from it, you should be pretty well trained, seasoned athlete if you want to do anything that he was doing.
Yeah, keep in mind that this guy was swimming around Great Britain. Like, this is not, that's what he was preparing to do. Most people are, the vast majority of people are not preparing to do something like that. So, like, yeah, don't take this as gospel of how to actually train just for GPP.
Yeah, it was great. There's he even did there's like a full on Instagram story about the entire thing because it only happened like 3 years ago. So I just watched that earlier today, and when I first finished it, it's pretty cool.
I knew it had to be recent because some of the studies that he mentioned were not that old. Cool.